Well, Sean, a huge warm welcome to Edinburgh Rugby in the Scottish capital. Firstly, great to have you here. How are you settling in and how are you enjoying life at a new club?
Yeah, I've been here for 2 days now and it's been really enjoyable. Got a beautiful city, um, staying in a lovely apartment in the city centre, so it's given me an opportunity to explore what we have here. Fortunately, I came over a couple of weeks ago and visited the team in St Andrews and introduced myself there, so it took away a bit of the pressure from coming in cold on Thursday. But really enjoying the environment at the moment. I also understand that we're in a honeymoon period, um, but it will be time that sorts that out. But really looking forward to it.
A new club, a new city, a new country, a new climate. Firstly, how much are you kind of looking forward to the challenge of taking on what is something completely new for you at Edinburgh Rugby, and how much did you know really about Edinburgh Rugby as a club before joining?
Yeah, for me it is a new experience. As you know, I've been at the Sharks for many years, but I think the time is right for me to move on and learn more experiences. I spent a short time at the Bulls and that was really exciting for me, having a new experience being in Pretoria. And this for me is new. We're at the right stage of our lives as a family to start again and invest in the future here in Edinburgh. And then as far as the club's concerned, obviously being involved in the URC for the last 2 years, very familiar with the club, struck up a relationship with Mark Blair, wonderful man. So done a lot of homework on the rugby club as well. And what attracts me to the club is the style of rugby that they play. The attacking style suits me. I'm an attack coach, attack-minded coach. And I look forward to working with these skillful quality players.
Well, obviously, you come here, you inherit a team that's really filled with international quality, international players. I'm sure you'll be familiar with a lot of them: Duhan van der Merwe, Darcy Graham, Pierre Schumann. Obviously, a lot of them on Scotland duty. But how excited are you to work with these guys, and especially a younger crop coming through as well?
Yeah, I would say I'm a bit experienced in that role. At the Sharks, it was very similar for me, where we had youngsters coming through with a lot of senior Springboks and World Cup winning Springboks as well. It's obviously great working with top flight rugby players, because obviously there's an expectation from me as a coach to make them better, which is a challenge. But at the same time, the beauty of it is that we've got juniors there that are skillful enough and talented enough to make the international team in the future. And that's our job and responsibility, is to bring them through with the help of the senior players. So I see their role as helping the juniors as well.
You touched on it there. You've been around the block. You're an experienced guy, wealth of experience. You bring to the role. Can you maybe, for fans who aren't hugely aware of your coaching background, can you talk about your journey to this point?
Yes, my journey as a coach is probably circumstantial. Being a teacher and coaching sport at school and playing rugby at the local club, I followed through into coaching at an amateur level, and then went into coaching education full-time at the Sharks. And during that time, John Plumtree called me in 2008 and asked if I would like to be involved in the Currie Cup, which is our domestic competition. I coached with Plum for that year and then moved into the role of head of juniors. I coached the junior teams and some of the up-and-coming senior guys up until the age of up until 2013. Mm-hmm. From then I was involved in Super Rugby up until 2018, and then took over head coach in 2019 and coached Super Rugby 2020, where we did really well. We were top of the log, and unfortunately COVID called the end to the season. And then was involved in the two URC campaigns.
For people who see Sean Everitt, what is your coaching philosophy? What's your DNA? What do you bring as a coach?
Yeah, I'd like to see myself as a people's person and a good people manager. From a rugby point of view, as I said earlier, I'm an attack-minded coach. I believe the game has to work in all four quadrants, which is attack, defence, transitions from attack to defence, and defence to attack. And at the end of the day, our job as coaches is also to teach. And having a teaching background, I'm quite passionate about developing younger players and younger talent coming through. But what you'll see from me is a coach that wants the best out of his players, create a good environment for them to work in. I believe that we should have good relationships between management and players if we want to create an environment of learning. With that becomes an environment of trust, which is important. and I also believe in hard work. And I want the spectators out there to see a team that's really working hard and putting a lot of effort into their game. Yes, there will be mistakes, but I don't think there's any excuses for a team that lacks effort.
Well, you kind of mentioned it there. I think Edinburgh have built a bit of a reputation for fast-flowing rugby, especially here at our new home, Hive Stadium, with a fast track. Do you feel like your philosophy, the DNA that you bring to attack, can work at our new home and can really get fans off their feet?
Yes, very much so. You know, looking at the games and doing some analysis on Edinburgh prior to my arrival, from an attack point of view, there's nothing much to change. They're really good at it. And I think coming in at this late stage of the pre-season, we don't need to tamper on too many things. There's certainly areas of the game that we can improve on. And I think if you look at the results over the past 12 months, I think defensively we leaked too many tries. We scored a lot of tries, and there was some scintillating rugby that was played by Edinburgh. So I think we can tighten up our defence and we can manage the game better. And then at the same time, just take more care of the ball when we have it.
You've coached in the URC for a couple of seasons now. From a South African's point of view, how impressed have you been with the league overall? It was obviously something really new for the clubs joining. And then from looking at it from an Edinburgh Rugby perspective, what are the biggest challenges in the URC for Edinburgh? How does Edinburgh really kick on in this league?
Yeah, this competition is tough and it's unforgiving, as all franchises have found out over the years. And I think the South Africans in the last two campaigns have brought a different taste to the competition and probably added to the level, the high level that it is. And it's now regarded as one of the best competitions in the world, and rightfully so. Being involved in Super Rugby, there is a difference. Super Rugby more free flowing. In the Northern Hemisphere, the South African teams had to learn to be more accurate with ball in hand, because you get punished for turnovers here. Teams also don't give up the ball that much. In Super Rugby, because of the free flow, you tend to get turnovers on both sides of the ball. And at the same time, the set piece is really strong here in the Northern Hemisphere, where the South Africans playing in the Southern Hemisphere were able to dominate up front. We're good to get parity in the URC. So the competition is strong. The challenges we have is, as we discussed earlier, is the internationals that are away at the World Cup, and I'm familiar with that. We had a large number of Springboks involved in the World Cup in 2019, and obviously in the competitions thereafter, like the British and Irish Lions tour. But I see that as exciting. I see it as an opportunity to give the youngsters a development opportunity to showcase their talent. Every young guy needs time on the field to prove to the coaches and the public that they're good enough, and more importantly, to show that they're good enough to play for Scotland one day. So we need to manage that, and we also need to know that we need to support the international players, because the international players come back and more times than none they slot straight back into the team. And I think, you know, to grow a family and understand the needs of the club and the spectators and the sponsors, the team needs to buy in to the changes that might take place.
Final question for me, Sean. The countdown's very much on to the start of the URC season. We kickstart with Dragons away, then back home against Lions here at Hive Stadium. For you, how big a moment will that be, taking on a new club in a new country? And you must really want to set the stall out in front of the Edinburgh Rugby fans. Yeah,
very much so. It's extremely exciting. Dragons first up away is never going to be an easy game. You know, I had an experience of playing there a couple of years ago. We've trained really hard in the pre-season. We've worked on a lot of aspects of the game. The players have developed immensely over the last 2 months of pre-season. It's really exciting to see what they can deliver on the field against Dragons and at home against Lions. And I also think it's a great opportunity for the youngsters to step up and put their hand up for selection and challenge the senior players that might be coming back from the World Cup. So all in all, yeah, I think the whole squad's excited. It's been a long pre-season for them, and it is every 4 years when the World Cup's on. And I think you'll see an energised and rejuvenated Edinburgh team taking the field in those two games.